I allowed and encouraged them to teach me and other students. It was very empowering for them to know that they could tell me stuff that I didn't know. Certainly they could also teach the other students, and they had a lot of opportunity for doing that. But there were projects and blogs and industry updates that we did that allowed them to act as teachers and help frame their thinking. Here's an example of a student's project, page from a student's project, where they were explicitly told that they were supposed to teach someone how to become an expert on a certain topic. And so here he wrote up how to learn about a topic and then how to get updates and all the other things that are necessary. So he had to think about what he knew, what the reader probably didn't know, what would be of value to the reader, and then how to communicate that to the reader. And that was all part of the assignment, and it was something that helped them clarify their thinking. Now here's a page on a blog entry that a student wrote. And again, what they're doing is they're thinking about what do I know, some reflection on their topic and on the class, and then what can I teach the reader? How can I get them excited and interested and then learn something about this topic? The students had 8 different blog entries during the semester, and this was something that they were told to write just anything related to the class, just anything at all. And also, if it could be related to their project, that would be so much the better. And finally, here's an example of an industry update. Students, a different student every day, would give a 2 to 3 minute talk at the beginning of class about something interesting that happened several interesting points that happened in the last couple of days in the search industry. They would also write a page that you see right here, 1.5 pages or so if it was printed out, on those points that they found. And again, it gave them an opportunity to be an expert and to talk to students and me using that voice and trying out their skills as a speaker. One of the big risks that I took was all the collaboration that I encouraged. I had a different student every day take notes for the class, and they were doing that on the website, so that by the end of the class, the notes for that day would be up on the web, and anyone could then edit it or change it or amend it as necessary. There was another person who would come up with questions for the test, and they were encouraged to come up with good questions because if they were good, then I would use them, and if they weren't, I wouldn't. Now remember, these questions would be available all during the semester, so everyone would be able to see the questions and the answers. And at the end, when I gave the test, about 60% of the questions from the test were ones that they had come up with. So it worked out really well. Another point that they were told to emphasize was to write up technical details that they thought other students or me might find useful on the project. So they're trying to help other students do better on the project. Just write it up in the blog, post it, and we could all see it. Great. So they could get credit for doing that kind of work. And then also, the wiki itself for the class was something that I found to be really useful. It got the cognitive distance between them thinking of an idea and then getting it on the web and sharing it with everyone to be quite minimal. They could just think about it, and it was on the web with very little technical interference. So it was a great tool, I think, that helped the class go as well. For another thing, I trusted them to come to class if they found it useful. If they weren't going to come to class, then that would be something that I would be able to understand that they weren't getting anything out of it. It wasn't being useful for them. I told them the first day I didn't care. I'm not taking roll. I'm not taking attendance. It's not something that I care for. If they're in the class, I assume they're paying attention. What I wanted to see was the white to their eyes. If they're there, I assume they're paying attention, and it ended up working out really well during the semester, as I'll talk about in a minute. Everything for the class was on the web. And by everything, I mean everything. The notes for the day were on the class wiki. The questions for the day. The exercises for the day. My notes for the lecture. The slides for the lecture. Absolutely everything we did was on the wiki. So if someone didn't come to class, they could still get all the information that they needed. So if someone was there, I knew I must be providing value. It was like the best short-term measurement that I could get for whether the class was working out or not. The assignments provided many opportunities for them to write and for analysis. That was really the focus of the class. I was looking not to teach them details, because the details would change over time. I was looking to teach them about methods of problem solving. For the blogs, I want to talk about how I graded the blogs just for a minute. Certainly I was looking for them to inform the reader. Fine, that was sort of a baseline. But I was also looking for some insight that they provided beyond what I taught. Within the post, I was also looking for some personal reaction. I could read the original news item or whatever it was somewhere else. I wanted to see them within it. I wanted to hear their voice. And then context. Context within online writing is different than offline writing. So I'd want to hear where they're coming from, what the problem is they're trying to solve, but also I'd like to see links to other pages on the website or outside our website so that I could, again, better understand what it was they're writing about. And then finally, of course, I needed the length and detail of the post to be correct. So, was the overall experience good? Did it all work out? Well, let's look at several different measures. Certainly, the student learning is important. So, blogs. From the beginning of the semester to the end of the semester, the blog entries improved dramatically. At the beginning of the semester, I would give them feedback about those different factors that I talked about earlier. And by the end of the semester, well over 75% of the blog entries were getting perfect grades because they were just doing what I was looking for. So they did a fantastic job there. So then term projects. Term projects were also fantastic. They were well conceived at the beginning, and then throughout the semester, they just kept working on them, and by the end, they were very well executed. Just really wonderful projects. And then the test scores were in line with everything that I've done for the last 15 years. They weren't higher or lower, they were just right in line with everything else. So I was quite satisfied with that. Attendance. So remember, attendance didn't count for their grade, but about 80 to 90% attendance I had throughout the whole semester, and I was very satisfied with that. Very satisfied with all that they have going on in their lives. I thought that was really quite wonderful. Evaluations also came out really well. The evaluation showed that they weren't very interested in taking my class when they enrolled in it. But then by the end, I got a 5 out of 5, which, of course, I was very satisfied with. So that was good as well. And then finally, my learning. I considered that to be a great outcome of the class. I learned a ton. From their blogs, which I read throughout the semester, which I just loved reading. I know that sounds maybe a little weird, but I loved reading all their writing. There were a lot of them, and they did a very good job. But then the projects themselves, they were huge, and they were also very informative. The topic was good, but besides that, they were teaching me about how to do search and how they did search and how they applied all this information. So really, I think it was all a win-win. So coming into this class, I was lost. I didn't have this clear picture of what it took to be to teach an excellent class. So I thought about it, and I came up with this idea that I needed to work with the students, not against them. And then I tried all these different ideas, and well, I would say that it ended up working out. It didn't work out necessarily how I figured it would because I just didn't know. I was trying a lot of different ideas. What I would encourage you to do is think about these different ideas, see how you might apply them to your class, take some risks, and good luck.